Ooh, for the sound.
Hello, welcome to FPL IQ. Today, we're titled Game Changers because we've been looking forward to this game week for a while because this is where we feel now Haaland stops sort of becoming the automatic captaincy choice. A lot of people will be triggering wildcards from this game week, so we'll hopefully start to see lots of different squads, some even without Haaland, which we have discussed on this channel before. And players now, different templates, different players coming in over the next few weeks. Small differences we've discussed before between wildcarding in game week 7, 8, 9, and 10. So game changes because I feel like this is where the season is really going to start to kick off and separate those ranks. Because I don't know about you guys, but it feels like one week you get a decent score and you're up 500,000 places. The next week you get a good score, but then you're down 1,000,000 places. It feels like now we're going to start to get a good understanding of what's happening. And before we go into what the agenda of today's stream is, we'll just say hello to everyone. So we'll start with Ryan because he's back. Football Chat Box, back from his travels. How you doing, mate?
Not too bad. Looking forward to catching up with you guys. Obviously, did see some of the content that y'all are making and good stuff as well. Really enjoyed it. And then hopefully, after this chat, I can maybe save a bit of my team going forward because it's been disasters happening so far.
A lot of people have mentioned before, a lot of people are having a tough season this season. So you're saving your wild card, you said, till about game week 10. I used my wild card last game week, which leaves the two other gentlemen as the co-host today who have triggered their wild cards, and we'll be starting by going through those today. Again, on this channel, we don't usually talk specifically about our personal teams, but the fact that this is such a popular wildcard period now, and even though some of the big choices are quite similar between the two, their teams are different. Because that's the joy I find about us four as content creators is we might do things at similar times and we might have similar ideas, but we all seem to have very different teams and different thought processes. And what we do here is we're not sharing our teams because it's like a team selection thing or copy us. It's about why we've chosen these players and what we've looked at and analyzed to make the decision we have. And then people can use that knowledge to maybe change their own analytical styles, be it through data, the eye test, or both. So, Lucian, how are you feeling today? Feeling good?
Well, to be honest, Rob, I didn't have a really good game week myself, and um, there are these games over on this side of the world. Oh, sorry, we're all on the same side of the world, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah, the Asian games are going on actually, and Malaysia. I've been following Malaysia pretty closely, and I'm discovering all these new games such as kabaddi. Have you guys heard of kabaddi?
It's like the kind of football-esque one, but
No,
the skills look really crazy.
It's the adult version of tag.
Yes,
it's brilliant.
It's a sport played in India quite often.
So good. I love it so much. I mean, I'm just learning all these new things, and yeah, Malaysia is winning gold medals, and that makes me way more happy than my FPL team. So I've just set a draft, and yeah, you'll hear its explanations later on.
And finally, Planner been planning his own draft as his wildcarding. He's changed. He's been Haaland, no Haaland, Salah, no Salah. We're going to see where his allegiances lie today. Sounds a little bit nervy, Tien. Are you feeling pretty confident now with your decisions?
Confident is probably not the right word. No, I'm excited. I'm excited. It's always excited to. Wildcard is one of the most exciting time of the season, and you got to do it twice, right? I mean, last season was an unusual one where you got sort of like the middle World Cup unlimited transfers, which is basically another wild card. But we're back to the normal, 2 a year, and yeah, it's perfect. Sort of halfway through the first half of the seasons, and looking forward to share what has changed.
Yeah, that was the sad thing about me wildcarding last week. I did it like when we finished the stream on the Thursday, so I had like a day and a half to go through it. I said the decisions I made in the end it wasn't that much difference. I'd only would not have Morris on my wild card now probably, and obviously Botman, we found out after the deadline he's out for like a month or whatever it was. So I lost that enjoyment. Like you all probably activate when you know your wild card, and you'll activate it like as soon as you can, right? So you have literally like 6 days and 23 hours to tinker and play around on your wild card, and I did miss that. Like I was cut short to a day and a half, so I do feel sad about that, because you get 2 a year where it's like your little fun week. It's not even the team building for me, the value building. It's just the tinkering, and you can press the buttons and not worry about taking hits and things. So I did miss a little bit out on that. But I'm still happy with the decision. I would have came out point-wise similar, but that's because of the likes of Anderson, who I've had all season, and Johnson, who I've had all season, going to Old Trafford and getting a clear, like 15 points for Anderson away to Old Trafford is ridiculous. And I actually had downgraded him originally to Mitchell or Grahey just to save like 0.1, because I thought Anderson's ahead on his points because he scored that very lucky goal, and then he's gone and scored another beauty and got a clean sheet and 15 points. Like, just little things like that, where any other game, if they did that again, Anderson might have got a clean sheet, but he's probably unlikely to score another screamer. But there you go. Swings and roundabouts. It is what it is. So today we're going to be looking at two I think they're pretty different wild cards, and the reasoning why. Because remember, we talked about the why here and the thought process and why Tien and Lucien have come to these conclusions. After we've done that, we are doing our game week review picks. So every game week show, we choose one player for 4 game weeks, not just one player for the next game week, because as a whole, we kind of agree if you bring a player in, you look at a minimum of 4 game weeks, 4 matches. And we're going to review the 3 picks we've had so far. So game week 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? So we're going to review our picks. Some of them overlap, so we can kind of bunch them in together. Because, for example, I think Jackson was chosen by all of us. Did we all choose Jackson? I'll have to...
Not me.
I think you're the only one.
Smart Alvarez pick.
I think we all picked Jackson. So some of them overlap, and we can sort of make a decision as a whole. And again, we don't look at final points. We don't look at, okay, he got 30 points in 4 games, and we find out blank, 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 and scored like 5 lucky goals in a game kind of thing. It's not what we do here. We look at how they played. Are they still a pick going forward, or was it just sort of like a flash in the pan? Then we will talk about the game week matchups, where we are going to be looking at Liverpool, Brighton, Arsenal, City, and West Ham, Newcastle, before doing the fresh 4 game week picks, where Lucien is the defender, Tien's the midfielder, Ryan's the forward, and I'm the wild card, which means it's my turn to choose any player I want. And then captaincy, where finally we're actually going to not just sit here say, Haaland, thanks for listening. We'll see you all next week. And it is ending with a coin flip decision. Lucien, have you got the coin? There
Right
it
here.
is. Is that heads? Is that Pikachu?
Yeah, that's hits.
That's
Oh,
heads?
sorry. This is one of the picks. I'm not gonna name who yet, and this is the other pick. So
Okay.
the clue is there.
All right, so one's the word Pokemon, and the other one is Pikachu. All right, so that's how we're going to end the show, with a coin flip. So we'll just go in order of the docs that we've got. And it is Lucien first. So let me just go down to this one. So just for the people listening on the podcast, the audio version, or if you're not watching YouTube and you're just listening in the background, do you want to read through your team and then go through the notes as the analysis and the reasons why you have chosen these players?
Right. Thanks, Rob. Absolutely would love to go through them. All right. So for the audio listeners, in goalkeepers, I have a rotation of Areola, oh, big whoop, and Neto, not Pedro Neto, the other one from Bournemouth. Explanations later. The back five is pretty vanilla, with Trippier, Cash, and Destiny Udogi, complemented by two 3.9 million defenders, Taylor and Lamptey, especially in light of Estupinian's injury. Midfield is where things get interesting because I just couldn't shoehorn Salah in. So instead, I have Luis Diaz alongside Madison, Son, and Musa Diaby as my fourth midfielder. The fifth is not a 4.5 million midfielder. He is Pedro Neto, the actual Pedro Neto, sitting on my bench, also having his part to play sometime later on. The front three are rather obvious. Instead of deciding on anyone else, it's literally just Haaland, Alvarez, and Watkins since day one. That has never moved. And that is my starting 15.
Okay,
So, yeah.
the before we get the logic, something that's so strange is I was the only one of us who didn't start the season with Mo Salah. And now the time when most people are wildcarding to bring them in, like myself, you guys are going off Mo Salah. It's like we're opposites in this one. So going forward then, I mean, pointing out Neto, the goalkeeper Neto, the midfielder Neto, I think he's getting a lot of attention right now. He's playing fantastic football. His stats are really good. Lamptey with the injury, Neto with the goalkeeper then. So Bournemouth defense, bold. So Lucy, you want to go through the team and just describe your reasoning behind these players that you've got?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I promise everybody that this will be the longest segment of the explanation of the wildcard because think about it this way, right? Like at the start of the season, when you pick your initial two goalkeepers, you want certainty. You don't know who starts, you don't know who's first choice and whatnot. But by game week 8, all of this should be set in stone. This is why I had to get rid of Turner. Areola was first choice, without a shadow of a doubt, especially being that cheap. But having Turner partner him, as most content creators have now because of the money you save, right, still runs into some trouble. So while picking Areola's partner, right, I was actually looking at Areola's difficult fixtures being the top 6. As long as they involve the top 6, not including Chelsea and Man United. That's a very important one. Sorry. Yeah. Um we so I basically sought out a whole list of fixtures, literally written by hand like this, right? And I had candidates yeah, to see who could be his rotation partner. And so, there were popular ones such as Burn Leno, right? I think some like if 70% of content creators are running with Turner, Areola, the other 30% would be going Leno, Areola, especially with that opening Sheffield United home game, right? And I think yes, I considered Leno, I considered Palace's Johnston, this Neto, as well as Turner himself. So really, I was looking for floor versus ceiling. That's the argument here. Because in the end, if you are investing 4.5 million or less, in theory, for a goalkeeper, are you going to be picking that goalkeeper for save potential? Or are you going to be picking him for the 1 in 4 chance of a clean sheet? I think it's rather obvious that saves are what we want, right? And I think that's why Leno is rightly highly touted. However, when you look at the games where Leno actually comes in for Areola, right? They have really bad ones, like home against Arsenal, away to Spurs, especially in game week 9 when Areola doesn't play as well. And the thing about this rotation is that when you pick these two goalkeepers, you are picking them to last all the way until your second wild card in game weeks 27, 30, maybe even 34, right? Depending on when you want a wild card. So I was really looking at these rotations from game weeks 8 all the way forward until like 28, 29-ish. And yeah, so the thing about having Leno and Areola is that it's a lot of really difficult fixtures where he's unlikely to get save points, but there are also a lot of easy fixtures, such as in game weeks 8, 18, 23, and 26, where they play the 3 promoted sides. So it's a matter of flavor, because I can see the argument for Burn Leno, where you want him to play the promoted sides as often as possible, whereas I went for Neto, and if you look at that rotation, it reads Everton, Wolves, Palace, Forest, Fulham. That's that one difficult game against Spurs, and that's it. Because after that, it's Forest, Wolves, Everton, Palace. It's a beautiful rotation that avoids that avoids all of the top six except for Spurs in 20. So I am with the side of owning medium-ish fixtures, right? Teams that are around the same strength as Bournemouth. That will kick in even though I miss out on potential opportunities playing against promoted sides more often. So that's my goalkeeper selection justification. So I mean, the defense picks itself. I cannot, I do not see literally any other picks besides perhaps an alternative to Newcastle defense, right? Like we're all literally on the same set of defenders except for maybe Botman instead of Trippier or Burn instead of Trippier or whatever. So I'm gonna talk more about my front seven, right? Because I don't own a 4.4 million midfielder. So first things first, I've taken a leaf out of Rob's page. I have 2.1 million in the bank for a very, very strong purpose. Because the initial plan I had, right, was to prioritize Salah, Haaland, Son, and Madison. The rest of the team looked desolate. I was shopping in the 4.9 million market and I was like, should I actually back my Suchek pick that I mentioned on that haul? Very interesting stuff. And I decided that I also want to learn from my game week 1 mistakes and not have too many punts. So yeah, it's game week 8 now. So I really have to go with as many mainstream players as possible, even if it means sacrificing Mohamed Salah. So with the core team, Alvarez, Haaland, Watkins, Diaby, non-negotiable. They were the first names in the team, right? Picking Villa is exactly like picking Brentford at the start of the season in game week 1. You go with the Mbomo Wisa combo. Over here, you go with the Haaland Diaby combo. Sorry, you go with the Watkins Diaby combo. Makes perfect sense. And then next part, talking about Liverpool. So I think it's safe enough to say that Luis Diaz has been very harshly penalized for all the nonsense that the referees have been doing, right? Sending off whatever players, and anytime Liverpool go down to 10 men, they sacrifice Luis Diaz first. So his output has technically been muted by ridiculous offside calls and formation changes. And the irony is that there was this one game where Luis Diaz did not start, and when he came on, he immediately assisted the first goal. Right? I think it was against West Ham. So, oh sorry, it was against Wolves. My bad. So, that's how important Diaz is because he can double up as a wide player as a number 10, and he can play number 9 himself. He's basically the finisher from Salah's creativity, and with Jota technically suspended, I mean, what competition does he have on the left flank, right? So, yeah, Luis Diaz, perfect time to own him because that affords me Son and Madison in midfield. So, Spurs, I can imagine a lot of people being hot on them right now, especially with Luton and Fulham literally next, right? I'm not hot on the fixtures after Luton and Fulham. I think Palace, West Ham, Villa especially, all are very underrated and the FDR is very kind on them. So I would look to only owning one of the two Spurs players after the 2 game weeks. And that is me timing it with selling one of those 2 Spurs players to buy Mohamed Salah back. And that's pretty much the game plan. Own Diaz for 2 weeks, hide behind the couch for a little bit, and then switch back to Salah while owning Haaland and one of Son or Madison. And that, and at the same time, it allows me to keep Watkins and Alvarez. I'm pretty happy with that. So the trick here is that, the catch here is that in order to afford Salah, right? Because Luis Diaz is 7.5 and you need like 4 million to go all the way up to Salah. I have to sacrifice one of the Spurs boys. If I sacrifice Son, I have a lot of margin. But if I sacrifice Madison because Son is better, then I have to pick a 4.4 million midfielder. And this is where Pedro Neto comes in. Oi! So, so in the 2 weeks that I bench Pedro Neto, it is probably really likely that someone like Julian Alvarez will come back late from the international break anyway, and I'll probably get Pedro Neto on anyway. So I'm very happy to have Pedro Neto as the fifth midfielder and the 8th attacker because I mean, I fully expect rests after this particular international break. And at the same time, yeah, it's a good time to support Pedro Neto after these next two fixtures while I switch, to my 4.4 million midfielder. And the perfect thing is that in all of this chaos, I know for sure everyone will talk about Bukayo Saka. I can get Bukayo Saka with exactly one free transfer because of the 2.1 million I have in the bank.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if I let go of Madison or Son. And that's the plan.
Yeah. So, but if you go to Salah, you can't also get Saka.
Oh, I can. So, okay,
For
so this is
who?
how it works, right? Okay, so Diaz to Salah, that's a lock, right?
Right. And then Son
Right.
to Saka.
Okay, so if I turn Madison into a 4.4, then Diaby turns into Saka, and I have margin. If
The-
Son goes, yeah,
Right. Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. If I sell Son, then Diaby turns into Saka. If I turn Madison into a 4.4, then I would be selling Son to turn into Saka,
But then also play Neto every week.
which is perfectly fine.
Yeah, a lot of the points, which is why I said I ended up going 4-4-2 and 4-5-1, just because I do have Salah, Son, Madison, Haaland, and my team looks great in a 4-4-2. This is why I always say, like, so you're 3-4-3 or 3-5-2. I just feel like Alvarez is fine. He's 7 million, right? He's a great deal. Watkins is 8 million now. And it just boiled down to me of like, you can get a really good defender for 5 million who can arguably get you 6 points every other week. And then you've got Watkins who has to score and he's 8 million. And that was how I ended up. I think if people are wildcarding, the simple way to afford it is you go 4-4-2 or 4-5-1. Because Watkins will get goals at times, of course, because he's got a good run, but you've got Diaby there. So if you don't want to double up on Villa, you sacrifice Watkins to an Archer, then you've got money in the bank to turn like a Neto to a Salah, and then you just go 4-4-2. So that's why I was double Newcastle. So I know Botman's injured, but if you've got Burn and Trippier as a Newcastle double up with Cash and a Doggy, which is my defense, I think that is still better than a 3-4-3 where you're spending 3 million more or 3.5 million more for a striker. So a lot of you, so the thing I've noticed about your wildcards is you're getting rid of Salah, and Lucian's got a plan to bring him in, which is fine. And Tien, we're going to talk about your wildcard in a minute. I just feel like Salah's not the one you should be sacrificing. Watkins is the one, or Alvarez is the one you should be sacrificing, not that, because that's where you're sacrificing probably the greatest FPL asset of all time, who's about to go on a ridiculous run of fixtures, to have a Watkins or to have an Alvarez. Whereas Alvarez down to an Archer can give you Salah and just get another defense. Like double Newcastle defense will cost if you even if you go Trippier, it's going to cost you what, 11 million? To have a double Newcastle defense, and Cash and a Doggy are both under 5. So you're looking at a 4.9 million Cash now, right? And a 4.8 a Doggy. And you're going almost like double that for a striker who has to score every week, basically, to make him, or every other week to make him worth his value. Ryan, what are your thoughts on the wild card?
The Diaby move, I think I remember correctly, I read some comments about him potentially not being available for Gameweek 8. Yeah. Would that be a problem?
Not with Neto on the bench.
Neto's
okay, fair enough. And then I guess the thing with Watkins is he doesn't necessarily have to be a player that you have till like Game Week 20 plus everything. He could also be just a player that you have until like Game Week 12 or something, or Game Week 12, because it's only 5 game week good stretch that Aston Villa have. Yeah. And then after that, he can downgrade him to any 7 million and below striker, I guess.
I'm turning him into Gabriel Jesus.
Okay. Okay. So I think Gabriel Jesus is also 8, I think. How much? Yeah, same. Okay. So I guess that value saving doesn't happen there. I mean, it looks okay. There's nothing wrong with it. To be honest, this season seems like a season where it's a lot of 30% EO players all performing, so you're not going to have them all. Like that Pokemon coin you have, we're not going to be able to catch them all. So you got to just pick who you have, trust your gut, and just go with it. There will be players who will be rank killers. We can't do anything too much about it. But I think the rest is fine. Lamptey and Taylor on the defensive slots. Not worried if one of your defenders miss out. No, okay.
I
guess so.
mean, if I have reason to believe that Trippier, Cash, or Udogie will not play, then
Yeah.
I'm happy turning Trippier into Botman or Burn and use that money to upgrade everyone else anyway.
Okay. Cool.
There-
Yeah.
there-
I
there's-
guess it's fine.
There's nothing wrong with the players, and you know, like we all play differently, and there's no point when people ask me their opinion on like their wildcard and stuff. I'm just like, there's no point in asking me because I'll just turn your team into my team because I picked it, right? If I'm sat here going, oh, you should bring in Bruno, and I didn't, it's like, well, that's just weird advice, right? So, like, I'm just for people listening, like the theory of I always get you need to sacrifice something, and Ryan, you just said you can't catch them all, you can't have them all. Of course not. It just for me, Salah seems like it's the sacrifice for you guys rather than a Watkins, and that's the key thing. Like if you took Watkins to an Archer, right, or an Alvarez to it, because City are going to. We talked about dropping Haaland because maybe not captain him. He's 14 million. Alvarez is on the same run of fixtures, and if Kevin De Bruyne comes back, whenever he's back, you know, if you dropped Alvarez to an Archer, could you move like Diaz or Neto to Salah, and then you're like, oh, I've only sacrificed Watkins. Like, if Watkins didn't get a hat trick, I was looking at him anyway. I even said to you guys on the wild card, he was my penciled in move from Morris to Watkins because of the run of fixtures, and I've got Diaby in that. And I completely agree with the double up. But when I made it and I had Salah and Son and Maddison and Trippier and Haaland, something had to give. And Watkins is the one that has to give rather than Salah. You know, look at the game that they've just had. Like, you're right. I love the Diaz pick because he is the one at the end of Salah's incredible passes. There were, 2 incredible balls from Salah to Diaz. One he did get on the end of, and one was this ridiculous VAR offside decision. So just if you're looking back and Watkins doesn't get a hat trick and Salah walks away with 2 assists, this could have been a much more difficult decision, I think, because and it's funny because you said to me, Lucian, when I said about Watkins, your reply was yuck. So
I still don't like
changed?
this. I still don't. What changed was that I still don't like the decision. I'm just playing the fixtures. I really am.
The
just playing
fixtures are great until what, game week 15 or 16?
13, I think. It's a 5-game week stretch.
Yeah,
if I'm
so
not mistaken.
and you know, and instead of sacrificing Son or Maddison in a few game weeks, just like I think Ryan you said, like Watkins can go to Archer, and he can be the one that you get rid of rather than one of the Spurs boys or both of the Spurs boys. So Tien, your thoughts on this wild card before we get into yours?
Yeah, I'm not gonna say too much because I think you got justification for your picks and your players. They fine. The only thing I would have a slight problem with is getting the Salah back because that's 2 transfers you booked in 2 weeks time. So basically, your 2 free transfers are taken up with your plan to get Salah back. And obviously, we know that things don't always go to plan, right? International breaks, injuries, and whatever else that will happen. And so, yeah, it will set you behind again. And by game week 10, the wild card and transfers people will be making by then will be very different because they'll be going back to Arsenal, Brighton, West Ham, where you'll be wandering around, just turning Luis Diaz to Salah and losing your 2 Spurs players in the process. So if Salah is someone that you really, really want, I would just go straight there. Oh, I mean, you've already got him, so I would just keep him. And if you don't want to sacrifice Watkins, and I just sacrifice Son. because you're going to sell Son anyway in 2 weeks. So yes, they got two great fixtures, but Salah's fixtures are great too. So the upside you get for Son is probably not great or big enough for all the sacrifices
But
that he had to
for
make.
2 games and a transfer out.
2 games and 2 transfers. Whereas if like, go into my draft in a minute, I have no intention to bring Salah in. If I decide to go without Salah, I go without Salah until week 16. Yes, there's great features that they got, but Luis Diaz is going to be my player that I hope would at least cover some of Salah's point. I don't expect him to cover all Salah's point, but then I expect the money that I save from Salah, I invest in the other players, would make up for some of that. But yeah, so the only thing I don't like about it is the book transfers. And I say the same thing for the people who are thinking about going without Haaland. If you go without Haaland, you go for a decent run of fixtures for it to be worthwhile. If you are bringing Haaland back in game week 11, it's the same thing. It's 2 or 3 transfers that you booked just to bring Haaland back. Then you fall behind on all the other areas in your team.
And we've literally just had a week of flags. Like, I know a lot of them ended up playing.
Exactly.
But we've just had a game week where we've had 4 or 5 of people's first teamers have a flag, and people like myself wildcarded. If that happens again, and Diaby's got a yellow flag now from the game from last week. If Cash goes down with an injury and Madison pulls up, but you've already penciled in 2 transfers in 2 weeks, like,
yeah.
I know, Lucian, you're a hit player. Like, you've said yourself, like, you will just take hits. So that's the difference in game styles. Well, so Tien, we'll go on to yours. So if you just go through your team just for the sake of the audio folk.
Yep. So if anyone listened to the FPL Signet podcast, I was a guest on that podcast a couple of days ago, and I also talked about my wildcard. Then it has got a couple of changes from that. So in goals, I've got Areola, and the other goalkeeper is David Raya. In defense, I've got Trippier, Cash, Peroporo. And the other defenders are currently Byrne and Lamptey. In midfields, I've got Son, Luis Diaz, Madison, Mitoma, and Bowen. And up front, I've got Haaland and Watkins, and Lyle Foster. So I used to have Robertson in defense as like another big hitter defense and playing 4-4-2. And obviously Archer is the third striker. And I also have Pedro Neto as a sort of the fifth midfielder. But after listening to the Net That Whole matchup shows, where they show ridiculous upside for Mitoma against Liverpool, I changed my mind because I probably won Mitoma in two game weeks anyway. So I had, game week 10, they have once again, a beautiful run of fixtures. So obviously Liverpool and Man City before that, but Liverpool doesn't seem to be a hard fixtures anymore based on all the data and matchup and playing on the right-hand side of Liverpool with either Trent or Gomez. Mitoma could have a field day. So I'm happy to just have him now. And once again, I'm looking ahead into game week 10. So that's Mitoma is there, Bowen is there, so that I don't have to worry about getting Brighton and West Ham players by then. Those two will be very popular on the wildcard, game week 10 wildcard. And I also have an Arsenal defense coverage in David Raya as well. Now Raya I can play this week against Man City, or I can play Areola against Newcastle. It's a 50-50. Probably neither will keep a clean sheet, but it's just I might use your coin later on for that. But Raya will just be the set and forget keeper. I don't intend to play Areola very often. Now some people might say, oh, well, it's a waste of, the goalkeeper spot. I could get Turner, but Raya could be, rotated with Ramsdale for the odd games. I think he's first choice, but obviously there's no guarantee that he plays every game. So I need a good playing goalkeeper to come in when needed, because 4.8 for a goalkeeper playing for Arsenal, who is currently second for defense, just behind Man City. So it's a bargain. Lucian's already talked about Luis Diaz. I really like him. The fact that when he plays, he gets on to the end of Salah's assist. So obviously Salah is a great pick. I would love to have him in my team. But unfortunately I can't, because it's the moment I put Salah in, I have to sacrifice at least 2, 3, or 4 other spots on my team, and I like Trippier is a must in my team. I don't think Burn or Share or Botman or whoever else can cover Trippier. So it's a bit about looking ahead more than anything. Like a lot of the players pick themselves, as Lucian said. Foster is someone that I think is being overlooked a lot, because he's got great underlying stats. He's already scored like 3 goals and 1 assist. So far, he's a talisman in the Burnley team. So most of the time, you will probably be on the bench, but he can come in. Like, for example, next week, Luis Diaz might be at risk, coming back from international trip, playing the early game. Mitoma away at City, so Foster can just come in. Even Dan Burn can come in to play like a 4-4-2 or 4-3-3, no problem at all. So I want to have a decent bench cover because of all the potential flags that are popping out everywhere. It seems to be a lot more this season. Injuries seem to be happening all the time. So I'm not a big fan of very thin bench. So there we go.
So
that's my latest draft.
Do you have any money in the bank?
I got about 1 million in the bank, so I can easily turn Madison into Saka in game week 10 if I want to. And because I don't have any other book transfer, I can easily do that. So either Son or Madison, depending on who's showing potential. One of them will be Saka, and that's pretty much it. I mean, Estupinian is another one that I might want, but any of the defenders can become him as well. So one probably likely to be one of the Newcastle boys.
So just the 2 things I noticed here is, I get what you said about having a good bench on Foster and Burn, but we don't often go 2 player deep, right? And the fact that you've got a 4.6 million Burn, but not the Newcastle defensive double up, like, you're not going to play Burn over any of those starting 11 players at any point, right? You're not going to drop any of those defenders in the 3. You're not going to drop one of the attackers. So you got a 4.6. So Burn could happily sit, if he's not going to get in your 11, and he's 4.6, so he's not so expensive, he could sit first sub for you every week. And then if he's the one that comes into the side, you've got double Newcastle defense. Great. So I just questioned the extra 0.5 million you're spending on Foster, who might have great stats, but he's a Burnley striker. And you're not going to go usually 2 player deep. And if you did, it's not going to be a good week anyway. But just my only thing would be like Foster down to a 4.5 Archer, who's a 90-minute man for Sheffield, and stick him second. And then you've got another 0.5 to play with to improve someone else, because you're not often going to go 2 players deep. If Lampard is in for the next month, you've got him to push up your bench anyway. It just feels like you're spending 0.5 million, and I don't see a huge improvement. And you want to put Burn on before him anyway, because Burn is more likely to get a clean sheet than I think Foster is to get a goal. But that's just my opinion on that part. Raya, I think, is a great, like, out there move, because you're right. You've got Areola as the backup. I had rotating goalkeepers. I think it's a great choice. So if you do play Raya, and that is the week he's rotated, you've got Areola. So what? Everyone else has got him and Turner anyway, like myself, right? So I think that's a good. That could be a great value 4.8 million goalkeeper. But Arsenal goalkeepers only get clean sheets, like they don't get save points. So that's 4.8 for that's 4.8 for a 6-pointer.
He's got great. He's got save potential and he's got a very high bonus potential.
Have you
well.
seen the save points for goalkeepers?
Yep. So he got 3 saved against Tottenham.
Yeah.
So he's only played 3 games, right? So he's only
here's the thing,
played,
right?
So 2 clean sheet. Like 2 clean sheet, and the one that he didn't clean sheet, he got a save point. So yeah.
Right. So, but the thing is, if he is against Spurs, which is a top team you expect to score, that'll be the week you play Areola anyway. You wouldn't play Raya against City if Areola's got, Luton at home, right? So you're saying he's getting save points, but he's going to get save points in the games that you're not going to play him in.
I think you've got to be very careful with sort of overplaying the save points. I think that the reason why Areola is popular, not because of the save point, is because he saved a penalty. Like he hasn't, I think he's only kept 1 clean sheet so far, but because of the save penalties and the bonus on top of that, sort of boosts up his point. So yes, save points are great, but clean sheets are more important. So,
but I do like it. It's definitely a different pick, and it could be incredible. Even 6 points when they have a good run of fixtures from game week 10, that could be excellent. I just think the 0.5 million on Foster could be spent in your 11 somewhere, and Burn as your first sub, and Lamperty as second, and Archer as third. But the key question, and this is going to be to Lucian as well as yourself, what changed about Haaland? So, Lucian, you still got Alvarez and Haaland. Alvarez, I get 7 million. He's in the 11. Fantastic value. No arguments against that at all. Both of you, especially Tien, I felt like you were stronger in the no Haaland camp and the yes Salah. And actually, I'm pretty sure you both said last week, or I said it and you agreed, or I just said it, most people are wildcarding now to have Salah and Haaland. We don't know anyone who's wildcarding now to not get Salah in their team. You two are both wildcarding to keep Haaland, which everyone already has, and Lucian is selling Salah, which everyone else is bringing in. And Tien, you're saying that you will not have Salah unless something crazy happens, until after game week 16. So you guys have completely, you started the season with Salah. One of you has got rid of him on the wild card when everyone else is bringing him in. We're all we're wild carding because it's Salah and Haaland time, or it's no Haaland and Salah time. And you guys if you're wild carding now, you're getting Salah and Haaland. And
only Watkins has changed the story.
And Watkins is in both of your teams now, and Salah's the one who's sacrificed. What has changed in the last week that has made you, 1, no longer want Salah, but 2, no longer want Salah and you're keeping Haaland?
So I'll go first. So yes, I was seriously considering no Haaland from our last stream. But when I started playing around with the drafts, like actually looking into the draft, I looked ahead, and it's the same reason I just talked about 5 minutes ago. It's the game week 10 and 11, right? When I look at that, I know that there got to be certain players that I need to have by then, or I really want to have by then, and the Bournemouth fixture in game week 11 for Haaland, I just asked myself, can I go without him for game week 11? The answer was 85% no. It's like, well, if I can't go without Haaland in game week 11, or I have to get him, right?
But Salah
And
has
even if I
Luton that
give
week, right?
yeah, but still, it's the fact that Haaland, you know what he can do, right? Now, the thing is, if I was to go against Haaland, I had to go for a lot longer, so all the way to 16 when he played Luton, because after Bournemouth, he got like a series of slightly more difficult fixtures again. So if I think that I could do that, go without Haaland until game week 16, then I would do it because it's worthwhile, right? And Salah got a beautiful run between now and then, right? Bar a couple of hard fixtures, but I think most of the fixtures are very nice. But then Brighton changed it as well because Brighton conceded 6 goals to Villa, and Haaland played Brighton in game week 9. So then it's like, then I look at it like, okay, well, Arsenal is difficult, we know that. Then Brighton is no longer difficult at home as well. Man United is definitely not difficult. So then I was like, well, then I look at it as like, well, if Haaland goes in any of the next 3 games, I'm in big trouble because Bournemouth is in 11 as well. Then I know that in my mind, I would need to get Haaland back very quickly. And once again, that will set me back 2 or 3 transfers behind everyone else, and I can't do any of the other things that I want. So, I mean, the main reason for going without Haaland is because of some of the more difficult fixtures where people will be looking at captaining Salah or Son, right? So that's pretty much it. Because like, why do you have Salah if you don't think that you will captain him for quite a few games between now and 15 or 16 or whatever, right? So that comes down to the captaincy decision. So I look at that and say, well, can I captain Haaland in how many games? And can I captain so if I keep Haaland and Son, how many weeks can I kept? I'm happy to captain either of them. Pretty much every week I'm happy to captain either of them. So then, do I really need Salah? Of course, Salah is a great option, and he can score, and he can get good return because he's fully capable of that. But it's the fact that if I don't think I can go without Haaland for that prolonged period, then it just book in too many transfers because it's not an easy switch, right? And then the main switch is Salah to Haaland. So then if I know that if I want Haaland, I need to sell Salah in three game weeks time, so I might as well just not having Salah, right? And just keep Haaland and save myself 2 transfers, at least 2 transfers, if not more. Because you actually need another 1.5 million cash in the bank as well, just to make that double switch. Right? So it just become too much for that to be worthwhile.
But you wouldn't sell Salah in 3 game weeks because after 3 game weeks he's got Luton, Brentford, City, Fulham, Sheffield.
That's exactly my point. That is exactly my point. That is only if I'm willing to go without Haaland until 16.
Well,
which I don't.
You can have
which
both.
I'm not.
You can have both.
Yeah.
No point. Get rid of Watkins.
Well, you can have both.
Get rid of Bowen. No, I don't need to change it. But yeah, it's just interesting because we were all like, yeah, everyone's wildcarding for Salah and Haaland now. And you guys had Salah at the start of the season, and Haaland wins. So just before I ask Lucian about his decision to keep Salah, to sell Salah, because he's actually getting rid of him now, and to keep Haaland. So coming back to captaincy, right? That's the key reason why we discuss about potentially selling Haaland. Do you still think he's between now and game week 15 your main captaincy guy then? Because I've got Salah, I've got Son, I've got Haaland, and I'll probably... So you guys have talked about Son getting Saka back in game week 10, right? So I could go Saka to Son, or Maddison to Son, or whatever, Maddison to Saka, to have that other captaincy choice. you now, captaincy-wise, who are you going to trust with the armband apart from Haaland between now and game week 15? Because you don't have Salah, you've only got Son. Is he the only, or Maddison? So is Haaland still going to be mainly your captain every game week?
Even if you had Salah, you're still putting it on Haaland. Because here's the reverse question, right? Apart from this week, which is against Arsenal, you look at Haaland's rest of the fixtures until 15 or 16, which we're talking about. Every single one of those teams can't defend.
Nah,
Not one team can defend there.
But compare it to the Arsenal, even Villa, like Arsenal, Spurs, and Liverpool.
Spurs can't defend. Liverpool
no, I
can't
mean,
defend.
for
Yeah.
choosing your
Oh,
captaincy.
you mean the fixtures for them?
Yeah. So you've
But-
got Spurs got Luton and Fulham. They're better captaincy options than Haaland, who's got Arsenal, Brighton. And I know he can score a goal, but we're talking, and I know we're talking about Haaland. It's just we've talked about the title of this stream is Game Changers, right? It's now that we have other captaincy options. Like we talked about it last week. We had who was it? Someone's chart or we just posted it in a graph where all the players that you could captain instead of Haaland between now and 15, and they were like Man United away. Yeah, Haaland can score against anyone. No one is saying he can't. But if Haaland goes to United away and scores a hat trick, that is disgraceful for Manchester United.
Oh, it happened
Right?
the last time. I captained Salah.
But just, you play
It
that
is.
game 99 times of 100. It shouldn't happen. Against
No,
Brighton.
actually, it should be 50. I'd say 50 out of 100 that happens because Man United were atrocious. You got to pick out the blinders. Man United were
I know.
absolutely atrocious
Now-
last season. So
But-
sorry,
Can I
Rob.
just
that,
can I just ask you? Can I just ask you something? Sorry, Rob. Can I just ask you something? So I wasn't influenced by the Watkins hat trick, right? Because I was already kind of planning to get him before 2 weeks ago, so that before he scored any goals, because I'd already looked at the analysis and it's like, yeah, he's going to be one of the very good options going forward. But you can see that one game changed a lot of people's opinion, right? All Haaland need to do, like the reason why we're talking about it now, and a lot of people are talking about now because he blanked in the last 2 games, including the Champions League. But had he scored, and then I watched the highlight of the Champions League as well, he missed another tap in the 6-yard box. It's just over the bar. It's very similar to a few of the big chances that he had against West Ham. Remember that game?
Yeah.
West Ham away. Everybody was going for Son against Sheffield United. He could have scored 4 to 5 goals in that game with all the chances that he got. The fact that he didn't score doesn't mean that he didn't have those chances.
That's West Ham.
Now, but that's the thing. Like, all he needs is to score 1 goal against Arsenal away. Everybody will panic.
Yeah.
Well, people that don't have him will panic because it happened. It happened.
I just think there's
'cause,
better, there's better options. Like game week 10 away to Manchester United, you've got Saka at home to Sheffield United, and you've got Salah at home to
Yeah.
Nottingham Forest. Like, so your captaincy is basically still going to be Haaland every week.
Saka could just get a penalty, give it to someone else, and you're like,
Oh yeah, don't worry about that. I'm
Yeah,
happy that happened. I don't have him.
I mean, as a Man United fan at the moment, I'm happily captaining Haaland, really,
Yeah.
because he's
Same.
like the
Okay.
way we defend. It's just the worst that I've seen in a
I'm
while.
just sad about
Last season,
I just don't
Yeah.
like him always being captain. So Lucian, you're selling Salah. Everyone else is bringing him in. You're opposite man. Is that just because of the funds and the players that you've got? Like, what is the key one for that?
well, I've been tinkering, and
Watkins is gone.
The-
You've got Salah.
no. I mean, sorry. What I meant was, I was tinkering since the end of the game week 7. Yeah, since game week 7 ended, I started tinkering just to fit all these players in, right? And my initial structure did have Salah in. It had Salah inside for the longest time. The problem was that if you tried to own Haaland, Watkins, Alvarez, Son, Madison, and Salah, you've got I'd be permanently playing 4.5 million attackers. So I actually tried various combinations of what I could compromise. Watkins being one of them, of course. And yeah, I just basically took snapshots of different combinations where I lacked that one player, right? I had a team that didn't have Watkins. I have a team that didn't have Salah. I had a team that didn't have Madison even. I had a team, yeah. So I just looked at all those teams across the board. Um, and of course, all of those teams didn't have Saka. So yeah, I just looked at the structure, right? And I just asked myself, do I intentionally want to play Neto every week, Pedro Neto? Because I think deep down the answer is no. And as much as I love the Mitomas and the Bowens and the other 6.5 that will eventually appear, my pick still firmly rests with Diaby. I couldn't change that. Like Diaby was locked in no matter what happened. And frankly, if Anthony Gordon were not suspended, I would have had Salah in my team. I think that Newcastle suspension really killed Salah's prospects in my team. And you know, to be fair, Rob, you're right. If I turn Watkins into Archer right now, I just think it, right? I can actually fit Salah by upgrading Luis Diaz. I can. I actually can. I can possibly own Salah, Son, and Madison, and Haaland, and Alvarez all in my team right now, if I choose to do so.
If you do Diaz to do Watkins to Archer, Diaz can go to Salah. Who can Neto go to go 3-5-2?
Like 5.6 gives me.
Okay.
It was supposed to be Anthony Gordon.
What about 4 at the back then? Or
cannot name
Almiron?
you. Well, if I tried. I mean, name me a
Almiron's
5.5. Name me a 5.5 midfielder that can match the output of Pedro Neto.
Well, so which is my point. Why don't you put Neto down to a midfielder and go for a 5.5 million defender and go 4-4-2?
Name me a 5.5 million defender that can match Pedro Neto's output.
Loads. Defenders.
Name one. Name one.
A City defender.
No.
Double Newcastle. Okay, double Newcastle defense. Go Burn and Trippier.
Yeah.
Save the money.
Yeah, you know what? The 2 clean sheets came against Sheffield United and Burnley. That run is over. You will see Newcastle concede very soon. You just look out for that.
Oh, they will, but okay, look at from game week 10. You could get an Arsenal defender for 5.2. You can get almost any defender for 5. You can get any City defender for 5. Is it 5.5? Diaz, I think, is the highest. Or you
but even if you can do that, you will have a 4.4 million midfielder and 3.9 million defenders on your bench. So basically non-existent bench.
You must have more money than
that
is a problem. That is
no. If I turn Pedro Neto into James McAtee, for example, right, then I would be turning Taylor into Saliba. That's possible. I mean,
yeah,
that's a good argument, and I'd still favor Pedro Neto for each time, or at least I'd own Pedro Neto for 2 weeks, then turn him into a 4 million so that I can turn Taylor into a Saliba.
You upgrade Lamptey to a Burn and Taylor to a Palace defender like Mitchell or Gahey, who are 4.5 million, and you have 5 good defenders and you play 4 of them.
Fair. I mean, I appreciate that argument, and you give me those 2 pictures side by side. I 9 times out of 10 point at Pedro Neto unless there were doubts of him starting. Yeah, I'd still favor the cheap attacker over the 5 million defender.
Well, Wolves from game week 8 to 17, the second on the fixture ticker, so it's fine. Just for me, Wolves as an attacking force is one of the most toothless in the Premier League. But he's been fantastic. They're on a great run. I completely get the point. It's just like I'm saying, if you can have 5 good defenders, including one from Newcastle, Crystal Palace, whoever rotates well, so you always play Trippier, Cash, your doggy, right? And then you find maybe one that comes sometimes in for a doggy when Spurs has got a tough fixture. So you get like a Crystal Palace defender and another Newcastle defender for a double up, and you just rotate the 5th one with 4. And I think overall those points would be better than playing Neto every single week.
I understand. To be fair, I think I will be in the medium term, I am looking at selling Udogi for one of the Arsenal defenders anyway. That's one of the transfers I have down the line. Not booked, but it's one of cash or Udogi eventually turning into an Arsenal defender. So, but I completely get your point. I really appreciate that argument. And yeah, it's just a matter of preference.
Yeah,
Just a
for
matter of
sure. Like
preference.
Neto is an exciting look for fun. Having 5 midfielders is more fun than playing 4-4-2. It just is, because I'm sat there, but I get more nervous because I'm like, clean sheet. Oh my god, my players have got 60 minutes. I've got 6 points. Hold the clean sheet, and then I'm more nervous in that situation. Whereas you want to watch your players attack, but that's just the way it is. So let's go.
It's just a last argument. 5.5 million, I will only consider if they are somebody like Luke Shaw, Ben Chilwell, Ben White even. Like if they were an attacking fullback for 5.5 million, I'd definitely have them in straight away.
Just
That's all.
the long-term injuries, right? We don't know when they're back. But look, game week 10, Brighton's fixtures come back. Estepinian might be fit by that. He's 5.3. He's still got high. He's still over 50% ownership, so he covers you from an EO point of view. So if you're looking from Estepinian from game week 10, Fulham, Everton, Sheffield United, Nottingham Forest, Chelsea, Brentford, Burnley, 10-16. Do you think he outscores Pedro Neto in those 6 games? Probably. Estepinian, the left winger. Like the fact that he has so many, he's got 25 points already, and that includes him being rotated, scoring a minus 2, and no clean sheets for Brighton, and he still is on 25 points. It's and look at when Reece James and Chilwell come back. They'll come back into. I know we're hating Chelsea right now, but they'll come back into the equation as well at some point. But yeah, all right. So we're finally going to review our picks. Finally, some of these overlap. So we'll go through. We'll do it week by week. So our first pick by first pick. So the first pick that I had, who I brought in myself in game week 2, was Diaby, who scored 3 points, 12 points, 2 points, and 5 points. When I brought him in, he had 10.3% ownership. That is now 12.7%, and Villa are about to go on the run of green fixtures. I said it when I brought him in game week 2. I said, look, guys, he's basically a striker next to Watkins. He should have more points if Watkins finished his chances and Diaby had some offside ones. I just think I think that's a successful pick. Any disagreements about the Diaby pick?
No, I think it was a good pick because
I-
you picked him for whatever reason you picked him, and he turned out exactly what you thought he was going to turn out. So
And
yeah.
the positive thing is, even after those weeks, he's then got 3 points, and then he got 8 points against against Brighton. And he was unlucky because he almost scored, right? Because that second goal turned into the Estepinian own goal, which I did tweet about, saying that actually worked even better for me because Estepinian being such a high-owned player, giving all those guys a -2, just to sacrifice myself like 1 or 2 points might like sacrifice a point or whatever, so it kind of evened itself out. But Diaby, I think, is a fair pick, and I think a lot of people are going to do wildcard. I think, in fact, both of you have got him.
I don't.
No, but yeah, Lucian has him. Tim doesn't. For the wild, I think it'll be popular wildcard in. Going back to here, first pick. I think we should just go through all of TN's now and just say yes, 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 yes. I don't think he's got a single pick wrong, even though the last 2 on the list hasn't finished yet. I don't think TN has got a single pick wrong so far. So we'll just we'll go through all of TN's now because it's just a big yes. His first pick all the way back in game week 2. So remember, cast your mind back. Game week. Can you remember by any chance his ownership in game week 2? It certainly wasn't high. Certainly
Yeah, I can't, but
wasn't high.
it was pretty low, I think. Yeah, I don't think not many people was talking about him back then.
No,
but yeah, so when I pick Alvarez, I think KDB was injured, so we know that he was injured.
Yeah.
No,
just because he got injured against Burnley, and you picked him for game week 2.
And yeah, so I think Alvarez started game week 1, played 90. I say that when he played 90, he was very good attacking wise, underlying stats, and with the great fixtures that they've got, I thought he would be well in the goals and assists, and I think he did all of that. I think
he got 7, 2, 14,
4
and 9.
returns. Yeah, and he got four attacking returns, and yeah, continued to be a great pick ever since. So I really regretted not picking him in my own team, even though I picked him from game week 2.
That was my 50-50 call. Was if on my tweet on the transfer I made when I took a player out, it was either Alvarez in for Pedro or Diaby in for Bruno. I still don't regret the Diaby pick, but Alvarez is a huge green out. He's 32% owned now. There's absolutely no way he was close to that in game week 2. Just after game week 1 as well, right? We didn't know game week 2 at this point. We just had his 1 assist against Burnley, and then KDB got injured, and you've picked him. So I think that is that is such an early big green tick, that as well. It's not like, oh, he was good last week and he must be like, no, that was a absolutely phenomenal pick. Maybe the only one you'll disagree with is Diaz.
Diaz was actually quite a disappointment because I obviously picked him mainly just for the clean sheets, and with that fixture run, I said that Man City could potentially keep 4 out of 4, but anything less than 3 was a disappointment, and they only kept 1 clean sheet out of 4. Really bad. I think Man City have just become a team where they just concede 1 goal a game.
Happened last year.
Even though, it happened. I thought they have changed, but they haven't. I mean, they continue to show the same thing. So that was a now the reason why I picked Diaz partly because of Gabriel. So I got a Gabriel problem in game week 1, right?
Same as me.
Where obviously, because obviously, we didn't get the news. So I had to move him on in game week 3 because I think he by that time he had been benched like twice in a row. It's like, okay, well that's it. Like can't wait anymore. So I make the switch from Salah to Sterling and from Gabriel to Diaz, and that effectively blocked me from getting Alvarez as well because I've already got Haaland and Foden. So that's basically that was it. So it obviously don't regret the move as such, but it certainly didn't turn out the way that I anticipated.
So we'll go to. So I'm skipping Lucian's Jackson because my second is Jackson, and we'll talk about the same situation. And we've got Jackson in a few of them, but we'll talk. So Chilwell was your game week 2 pick, Ryan. How would you describe that? Sorry. We haven't decided about Diaz. Like, I know he didn't get the clean sheets, but the stats are there for Man City. He played the games. He wasn't rotated out. Are we going to still say that is a bad pick? Lucian, would you still give that a tick or a cross?
I give it a cross because considering the I think it's just more about the price, considering the rates of clean sheets at the time. I just think that we have to consider the fact that clean sheets are just not that easy to earn in the first place. Even if you are a good team, you still have to time your clean sheets with some sort of defensive setup. If Man City are to keep clean sheets, you have to look for those symptoms that say that they dominate the ball without reply. And the moment you see those symptoms, then yes, you can outright declare the clean sheet. I don't think it's a simple case of looking at the fixtures and go, oh, it's not Man United or Arsenal or Newcastle. Okay, clean sheet guaranteed. Doesn't work that way anymore, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and I think 5.5, you get into the area where you need to be getting a wing back where you can want a clean sheet, but look towards the attacking return, and Diaz does not give that. I brought him in as well. I had him because I had the Gabriel problem too, and I was just like, give me 6 points a week. You should be getting a player like Walker, for example, who is in a more advanced right wing position, or Estupinian 5.3. Like, this is why, because we're going to talk about Chilwell now, but the idea of Diaz as a 5.5 million pure centre back, he's not known to be scoring loads of goals from corners, like a huge aerial set. I'm not saying he's not good in the air, but he's not known for his goals. He's literally known as getting you a 6 point when they get a clean sheet. And we know from last season, when I had Edison for so much of last season, they win games 4-1, 2-1, 3-1, 6-1. They have the lowest clean sheets in the league usually, but they always it's not clean sheets that they're doing. It's goals conceded that they're really good at not doing. So, yeah, I made this mistake as well. So that's maybe a cross for that one. So Chilwell. So Ryan, then Chilwell.
With Chilwell, I don't know what to say. Probably just unlucky. I mean, I remember times when he was in front of goal and decided to pass instead of shoot.
Yeah.
And I mean, imagine the halls that we could be talking about now, but nope. I don't know. It was. I guess at that time it's a good choice, good fixtures, just bad outcome.
West Ham, Luton, Forest, Bournemouth. 1-6-2-6. Were his points for that. I honestly, my opinion for this, actually no, sorry, I'm looking at Colwell, not. It's 1-6-1-0 because he got dropped by the Bournemouth game.
Yeah.
We didn't know. I had no idea. The Liverpool game, we were told he was going to be left wing to combat the Trent coming into midfield situation. So when we saw against West Ham, he was still left wing. So you picked Chilwell before we knew that happened. We had Chilwell in our mind as that good old get down the left wing, because the pre-season, that's what he was doing. He was playing left back, left wing back, and bombing forward. The Chilwell we all know and love. Plays left wing against Liverpool. That's to combat Trent. Okay, fine. He'll drop back to left back to bomb forward again. Beautiful. Nope, he's still left wing. Play against Luton. He's still left wing. Like, unlucky, I think, is good. I personally think this is a green tick. He was literally playing at left wing. He is a defender in the game, out of position. Not even as a midfielder. He was a forward, out of position player. It's just that he's great at getting forward and getting the ball in the box. He's just not that good at being that far forward. But the fact that he was genuinely a left winger, not a midfielder, not a wing back, he was literally left winger. I personally think this is a tick for that. I know he didn't get the points, but he had the chances. He passed instead of shot. Chelsea as a whole have just massively disappointed us again. But yeah, Lucian, would you have this as a yes or a no? Going back,
I think
not
this.
the
Yeah.
now.
Going back, yes, I would have given it a big tick. I think the question was not about whether you bought him or not, because the things that made him wane to this stage were definitely unforeseeable. I don't think anyone would have foreseen that he would have been injured and eventually replaced by Modric so soon. I think the experienced manager would know when to let go. I think really that's the difference. So I think it was a good decision for everyone to bring him on, but it probably is an equally good decision knowing when to bring him off. So if you did it after the 1 pointer, just after the Luton game, you probably would have been vindicated. But yeah, if you held him for the 1 and the 0 and the other one after that. So it really depends
Yeah,
when you let him go in.
because he got subbed early against West Ham in that second game week for Mudryk because they were trying to get a goal. You understand it. Then it was against Luton where he did get a 6-pointer because it was a clean sheet. But then he was back off 60 minutes against Forest because they were trying to get another win. Look, if Chelsea would have played like they should have been and getting the results that they should have been, then he probably wouldn't have been subbed off and he probably would have been a lot better. And of course, he's got injured, and you can actually argue in that situation that is our fault because Chilwell has a massive history of getting injured, and it's happened again, and none of us are absolutely surprised about that. Tien, would you say that's a tick across for that?
I agree. Like, I mean, it wouldn't be a big tick, but yeah, there was a lot of good reason for going with him, and the outcome was either unlucky or totally unforeseeable. Like, if you were to repeat it at the same point in time, you would pick him again.
So
without hesitation. So yeah.
My second pick, but Lucian, you're going to take it because this is your first pick, but we're going to put them together. And we'll also put this in with Ryan's third pick. It's Jackson. So Lucian, you're going to take what your thoughts and the Jackson say. Like, we are trying so hard to look at the stats and the eye test and not just look at those final stupid 1-pointers because he keeps blabbing his mouth off to the referee, which of course we didn't know he couldn't control himself with these new rules, right? But Lucian, what are you thinking about the Jackson pick?
Well, I think it comes down to why you picked him in the first place. I know the conventional manager would go, "Oh yeah, good fixtures. Playing number 9, even though without Nkunku, he's still furthest forward. He's got Chilwell, Sterling, all these players behind him. That's what you look at surface level. And I look back to what I said before game week 2, right? Picking Jackson. Yes, I targeted Luton and Forest, so that's technically 1 out of 2. Even though against Forest, he had that big chance in the 85th minute where he skied. So, I mean, I'd say, okay, fine, bad finishing. So, do you believe him turning that around, right? Then you look at I quoted his all-rounded ability because he's one of those number 9s that can actually drop and link up play with the likes of Sterling and Chilwell and whoever that plays, like Enzo Fernandez, right, when he played number 10. He had that, right? He had 3 key passes, most of them against Luton. And I wish I had that graphic to show, right, Rob, when I sent it like 3 weeks back, of his shot map. They're mostly in the 6-yard box.
Yeah.
You'd be happy with owning a player with that sort of statistics if you knew that, like, he probably would have come back. And honestly, there were various content creators saying that it's just a slump and his conversion rate is like way below what it is now. But yeah, we'll see what happens when he comes back from suspension. I also quoted him making near post runs. He made near post runs against West Ham. He made near post runs against Luton. He made near post runs against Forest. Yeah, it just fell flat against Bournemouth, really. So I would only give it a tick according to my metrics because I saw these patterns coming. And I think the question comes down to whether these things that I recognize will turn into product, because looks like it doesn't. Maybe the things I'm looking for doesn't deliver points. So I'm still a bit ponderous about it. Not sure about you guys.
Look, I'll say what I said weeks ago. I think it's a tick. Look, he's the second best striker in the Premier League for non-pen XGI, and he's the biggest underperforming player in the Premier League in terms of his in terms of what he should have got in goals and assists. He was getting in the position in all the key metrics you look at. I talked about before, like things like penalty area touches is massively overrated because you want your striker to just touch the ball once and stick it in the back of the net. 2 touches maximum, right? Or 1 touch, bang, it's a goal. He missed a sitter from Sterling. He's hit the post a couple of times. There's a goal disallowed. Like the goal that he did score against Luton was inside the 6-yard box. We've talked about Sterling being like good if you own him because he's greedy, but bad sometimes with his final delivery. He had Chilwell on the other side, who's not a left winger, but then he had Mudryk there, who still doesn't have the final product. In pre-season, Nkunku was behind him, and they fed the ball through. I still think, and it did happen with Mudryk and I think it was it Breuer who scored the goal for Mudryk scored a goal, but the week before that was it. Mudryk fed through Jackson for an opportunity, which Martinez I think it was who saved it. I think there's a link there because I had it in preseason. I think there's a potential link there, but in all the key things that you look at in terms of like opportunities, heat maps, where you want your striker to be, shots, attempts in the box. All of the good stuff. He's behind. He's like just behind Haaland, who is leagues above everyone else. So it could work out in the future if Nkunku's back in the side and they create a link together. I just think it's a tick. I know he didn't get the points. I know he got stupid yellow cards. He just recently took his goal well in the cup. And I just think he was the right pick. If I had him from game week 1, the only negative I say about it is he's a new player to the Premier League, and I should have gone with someone like, I don't know, Watkins, who is a tried and true, proven Premier League player. But the fixtures were there. I believed in Poch and the players that he had at his disposal, and the stats were there. It just got to a point. He's not stuck the ball in the back of the net. He had to go. And he got suspended, so he definitely had to go. But I just still can't bring it in myself to say that he was a bad pick. Because I just everything shows you that he was a good pick. Just not the final points-wise. Tien?
Ryan, you want to go first because you picked him?
For me, I'm going to go. He was a bad pick at the time I called him. 3 yellow cards in 3 weeks.
You game week 4. No, because he had Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth, Villa, and he should have had Fulham. So it still wasn't crazy. And 3 yellow cards. He still needed 2 more, which he did.
I guess it's like, at what point do you go from getting chances and maybe scoring to being seriously a bad finisher? Like, okay, you're getting the we kind of have to have that balance of he's getting good chances. He's underperforming. Why is he underperforming? Is he just a bad striker? But I'm just surprised at how he switched a 180 from preseason to when the season started. He was scoring goals in preseason. I don't know where that just disappeared. So yeah, I don't know. I think at this point he's probably even lost his place if Breuer stays fit. So we'll see.
So just follow on. I think early on in the season when you actually pick him for your team, Rob, in game week 1, I think that was fine. I think when Lucien picked him for game week 2, I think that was fine. Game week 3, that was still fine because you look at all the stats, you look at how they play. Chelsea was actually look very good against Liverpool. Right, second half I think, or was that first half or second half? One of the half they were really good, and against West Ham they were very decent as well. And then they were very good against Luton. Now you can say, oh well, it's the Luton tax, and it's very easy to just blame that to the Luton tax. But yeah, I think it's about at what point you start to think oh, this is not just being unlucky anymore. It's actually there's something wrong, right? And the way he behaves on the field, or all the yellow cards and stuff, and the sort of the body language. And there might be another thing that I don't know whether it play a big factor is actually Chukwuemeka got injured. I think up to that point the team as a whole seemed to be playing better. Sterling link up with Jackson, because when I picked Sterling in game 3, I saw that sort of that link up and that Jackson sort of playing that sort of holding the ball and then passing back to the Sterling, making that late run into the box. And it's that is a good team missed them playing, and then they did very well in the Luton game, but then they started like waning off. So yeah, so I got him in myself in game week 4. I didn't really regret it too much, but I was very glad to get rid of him when he got suspended. So yeah. Anyway, Lucian.
Ryan, I say this with a lot of love, but I'd like to quote what you said in game week 4 when you picked
He scored a
Jackson.
goal in game week 3. I will add. But yes, go ahead.
There aren't many forward options currently stepping up to the plate. And for
That was
me,
true.
it was the decision between Jackson and
Alvarez.
Alvarez or was it
Edward.
Visa?
Edward.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
I
'cause
remember
we
Rob
said
told me.
about- Yes,
Oh,
I said
pick Edward.
Edward.
Yes. Yes. And he scored.
I think he scored 2, didn't he, the next game?
Yes. Yes. I do remember
13, 8, 2, and 0 after that.
13, 8,
Lesson-
2 and 0 for Edward.
that.
Oh,
Lesson
dear.
Don't
learned.
go with the popular pick. Is the
No,
lesson.
go with Ryan's second pick. Go with Ryan's
Oh,
second
yeah.
pick.
There you go.
That would be perfect.
Go with Tien's first pick. Go with Ryan's second pick.
So
That
your,
means it's Darwin Nunes this
your
week.
second pick, Lucian, was Visa from game week 3.
Okay, allow me to pull up my notes because they are not very long. Yes, Wisa.
2,
What I
2,
said.
1, 2 were the points he scored.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. So I'm gonna stick with all the soft metrics first. Number 9 position. Yes, he was number 9 for all 4 positions. He was the perfect Joao Pedro replacement. Unfortunate. I mean, it was fair to say that Joao Pedro would not start games, and he did not start. No, he didn't start all 4. He actually came off the bench all 4, and he even got a return off the bench against Man United. And yeah. So really, the question came down to his advantage at home, whether he would deliver from the 3 home games he had with that run from game weeks 3 to 6, right? So home against Palace, it was a very crowded penalty box. He had 2 shots, 1 big chance missed. Still okay. Bournemouth, crowded penalty box, 0.39 xg, hit the post. Okay. Newcastle, well, it's Newcastle, right? So credit to Newcastle. Everton was where it all fell apart because Rico Henry got injured against Newcastle, I think. And that was when the team went downhill. When they lost Schade and Henry on that left side, the whole team became dysfunctional, and that is the state of Brentford right now. So I think the injuries cannot be foreseen. And Wisa is still getting chances. I think in their last game against I forgot. But
Nottingham
yeah,
Forest.
in game week 7. Yeah, against Forest, Wisa had multiple big chances. I think his XG went up to like 0.5 something. And I think I guess it's the same case as Jackson. He just doesn't finish from whatever he gets. So I mean, again, it's about when you let him go. I watched Palace and Bournemouth, and I decided I did not want to wait for Newcastle to get that Everton home game. And I sold him for Tien's pick, Alvarez. So, rectify your mistakes early. And really, I just feel that the good things I am doing this season has been rectifying my mistakes really quickly, picking the right players, and just wait for them to deliver.
Okay, so Foden, Ryan. There's always one for me where he's just never quite done it in terms of FPL or managing to hold his place down in the team. So this was from game week 3. Sheffield United. He had the poops. He came on for 4 minutes and got one of the most ridiculous assists. No, it was a crazy assist where Rodri smashed it in the net. I couldn't believe he got that assist. Anyway, then it was 5 points against Fulham, 2 points against West Ham, and 11 points against Nottingham Forest. Defense for Foden?
I will say that there were instances in the games I was watching that I just didn't understand how he didn't get more points.
Yeah.
That's all I will say. That is my defense.
I just think, that I know he was unwell against Sheffield United. He could have played more. 89 minutes, 66 minutes, 86 minutes, 90. Like, with the injuries that they've got, he should be playing more. And you're right. You watch him and you're always thinking Foden is a player that should get more points. he's a great pick if he's got the minutes. I think it's as simple as that. Tien, would you put this as a good pick over these weeks?
I had Foden, right? So I had Foden from the start until now, basically. Yeah, he did got the returns and he showed what he could do and he played a lot of minutes, which is all the tick that you could get like from picking someone in the Pep system, to be able to get all the minutes and is already a win. I still somewhat felt underwhelmed by his underlying stats. So he got the assist or lucky assist, and then he got an assist which I think was a 6-point assist because of the 3 bonus that he got on top of that, which kind of show that there's a caliber of his ability, right? He does so much for that team in that sort of like positional changes in the system as well. The way that Pep want him to play, which is quite different from what he used to do. So that may explain the lack of sort of actual chance creations and chance involvement. And most of the time, it just fell for Alvarez. So it just felt like he's got so much potential, right? Being more or less nailed in the team, and what he could do. But I just felt that he just never lived up to that expectation, even though he totally could. So yeah, sadly, I just it's just time for him to go, for me. But yeah, so I wouldn't say it was a failed pick, but I wasn't too overwhelmed by him, even though he's been in my side for the whole time.
Yeah. Lucian, would you have this as a tick? Cross?
I had him for these exact points. Like the moment he got that 9, I was absolutely sold, and I got him, for the 4, the 5, the 2, the 11, and the 2 against Wolves as well. So I'm very happy if a player told me he was going to get 24 points in 5 games. I'd be decently happy with that, especially if it's a 7.5 million midfielder.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all about perspective, right? I sold Kai Havertz for Foden, so I'm over the moon personally. It really comes down to who you sold. If you sold the wrong player for Foden, he looks like a gem. But if you sold maybe a Rashford for Foden, yeah, you'd be like lukewarm about it. So it comes down to how you use Foden in that context. Because, you think about it, right? Foden would have been the 3rd most popular attacker at the time behind Haaland and Alvarez. So if you pick up Foden, you'd be picking up 3 City attackers from Gameweek 4 when they had only scored just 1 goal against Newcastle. That was a pretty bold move as is. So, yeah.
Yep.
It's just all about
I think just want to quickly add, like it's very important point that you just made. It's all about the perspective and also the expectation as well. So yeah, it's exactly like you come from a low point of Harvest, not even on the field most of the time or not doing anything, to a Foden who got you 20, 24 points in 5 games. Well, that's a very decent position. Whereas I started with him, I expected a lot more, and the fact that every week I'm kicking myself because I can't get Alvarez. He just sitting there doing not as what I was hoping that he would do, and I couldn't get to the one that I believed more. So yeah, it's all come down to that, and I think it's very important to realize that you don't normally judge something objectively. You always have your own lens. Right, and it's always come down to that, and I think it's good to discuss because, like, if you look at the points purely on the point, it's like, well, yeah, that's perfectly fine for a 7.5 million midfielder.
All right. Well,
yeah, I think one thing I'll add for me, I think for me in my team, he's been from the start, and out of all my midfielders, I think he's been like the last person I've thought about like moving out because everyone else has just been like Mbeumo, disappointing. Rashford, disappointing. So there have been players who have just like been way more disappointing than Foden. That I'm just like, I haven't thought of him as like a disappointment per se.
Okay, we'll try and shoot through these last ones because we've got a bit left to go. And we're already like an hour and a bit, an hour and 40 in. The last pick then, mine is Isaac. 2 points, 0 points because he was out for that one, and then 5 points and 6 points. He scored the 2 goals against the newly promoted sides that I thought he would. I just put this right pick, wrong time. I was a touch too early, I think, on this one. And at this point, Wilson wasn't in for this one. So I've said so many times how much I love Wilson on this show. So it would have been him, but he wasn't there at the time. I don't think it's a bad pick. I had him for Brighton away, but then it was Brentford at home, Sheffield United, and Burnley. So I don't think they would. I don't think it's a big tick. I don't think it's a big cross. I just think it's maybe just a small tick because he got 2 goals in 4 games. I think he was fine. Any points? Any big disagreements or agreements, or just fine pick?
It's just more of the irony of you picking Isak and then like a couple. I don't know whether it's literally a game week later or 2 game weeks later that Tien picked Wilson. So I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
just
the
stunned.
next week he had him because Wilson had just done a 18 minutes, and then he had the flag, and he's got another flag, and he was out again. So yeah, but even if I got Wilson at that time, it's the same thing because he got 6-5, 6-0 because he didn't play against Burnley. So they just rotated out for that one game where Wilson didn't get Burnley and Isaac didn't get Brentford for the 1-0. So yeah, I think it was fine.
Yeah.
It wasn't terrible. If you had him, he's just got you 6 points and 5 points in the last 2 weeks, so it's not too bad. We'll do Walker then Sterling because I think Sterling might be a bit of a mixed one. So Walker, well, we mentioned earlier about Diaz, right? Didn't we, Lucian? About it being like 5.5. You want a sort of more attacking player. Walker's basically being like what, right wing? For mid. Let's not say right wing because that's really attack, but right mid I think is a fair agreement. The only thing people are worried about all the time with Walker is minutes. I had him a lot of last season because people said minutes. He's played 90 minutes every single game. Almost like Alvarez has. So when we've all been like, oh, the minutes, oh, Pep Roulette, oh, we don't know. But every minute. Now, of course, a lot of this is probably down to the fact that Stones was out for all of that time. So when Stones comes back, that's probably now going to make a difference. I'm surprised, especially with Guardiola's literally just come out and said Lewis is like one of the best people in training he's ever coached in his life. Yet he's played 78 minutes in game week 1. He played 1 minute in game week 4 and 1 minute in game week 5. And that's it. One of the best players he's ever coached. And he's played 2 minutes since game week 1. So I don't get it. But Walker has played 90 minutes every single game. So what's your argument, Lucian? Do you think that's a big green tick? I think it's a tick. I know they didn't keep the clean sheets, but I personally have this as a good pick.
I didn't pick him for clean sheets. I don't pick defenders for clean sheets, by the way, guys. I think I've reiterated that enough.
Yeah.
So really, it's about the runs down the right side. I think the thing that we need to consider about Pep is that he does not repeat the same strategy from game to game. So you really are picking a City player in hope of a position to be in a position to get lucky. Like, whatever strategy you saw last game, I think we know now that it's very unlikely to be replicated the same game straight after. Because I looked at each game literally, right? Because I do, those weekly reviews with Net at Hall. And the 4 games I targeted were Fulham, West Ham, Forest, and Wolves, right? So Fulham, play went completely down the middle. So that was a big bleh for Walker. And then from against West Ham, he created two big chances, one of them for Haaland, right? So that looked good. And Forrest was the one where he really shone, because I mentioned that the catalyst of all this was the new advanced positioning of Rodri. So this particular observation worked for 3 games, and then he got sent off against Wolves. So, oh sorry, what did he get sent off against Wolves or Forest? But yeah, one of those 2 games. I think it was Forest. Sorry.
Yeah, Forest. Yeah.
So yeah, so that was like literally right before Rodri got sent off. It was that one switch from Rodri to Walker, first time cutback for Foden's goal, that really just set things off. And then literally a couple of minutes after Rodri got sent off, and we never saw that again. So I mean, once again, it's one of those things where you can spot all the soft metrics, but will they deliver points? Because I mean, you guys weren't the only people I was recommending Walker to. And when they were like, "Oh, 2 points, 2 points, 2 points," and then when he scored that 11, I looked back at them. Yeah.
But
I mean,
his
yeah.
stat wise doesn't seem that high in terms
Yeah.
of like I know he's high up the field, but in terms of like expected assists and expected goal involvements, it's incredibly low. But for the position he's in, so he's 5.3 now. If you got him at 5, he's probably fine. But I think now borderline going into for his positioning, he's not involved enough for me.
I mean, for me, it's about the alternatives. I think for me, the error that I made, right, was that I looked at the 4 fixtures and I immediately eliminated Arsenal, United, Spurs, and Liverpool because they played each other. Arsenal played United in game week 4, and Spurs played Liverpool in game week 7. So I was like, I'm just going to ignore those 4 teams and pick from Man City instead. Sound logic, but when you look at it and you see that I could have had Arsenal against Everton and Bournemouth, and those are 2 clean sheets right there. I think we have to understand. Lesson learned is that one bad fixture doesn't make a 4-week fixture swing for defenders bad necessarily. Yeah, that's the lesson I learned.
So quick point, Tien. Good pick, bad pick, Walker.
I think it's a good pick. I think I mean, even though you said that you didn't pick him for the clean sheet, I think the clean sheets should have been there for him, and with the sort of additional sort of attacking potential, I think it was a great pick. For defenders, I still think you need to consider the clean sheet potential, and the reason why we picked the fixtures mainly for that. And then obviously, you identify the highest upside for that team, for example, because normally we'd identify the team, right, for that runner fixture, and then we pick the best pick in that team for the budget that we can afford. So yeah, for that reason, I think that was a tick.
Ryan?
I guess at the time when everyone was looking for like City defenders, you managed to pick someone who was nailed almost every game. I guess that itself is like yeah. So that itself is a tick.
So the final point here is Sterling. So when Tien picked him, that's when he got it was before his 19-pointer. Since then, 2, 2, 2, and then benched for Fulham. So this one's a difficult one because Jackson, in terms of all the metrics, but not putting the ball away, apart from Luton, held him back. So Tien, he's your guy. You had him in. You've only just taken him out on the wild card now, right?
Yeah.
So
he's
a hero
so
for
once
Game
again,
Week 3.
once again, I think let's not talk about the outcome, because everyone looks at the outcome and say, yeah, that was a poor outcome. There's no argument about that. And I think I already explained in relation to Jackson, right? I had a couple of good games even after the Luton game. Like the Forest game was all right, but then they really went downhill from there. Like, it's not just Sterling or Jackson; it's just the whole team that didn't look like how they looked against West Ham, and so the lessons to learn is, we touch on it as well, right? It's when we pick someone, when is the right time to jump on and when is the right time to jump off. Now, I can't. I got the 19 points, right? So that then you could argue that that was a good time to jump on. But at the time, I wasn't that sure. Like at the time that I actually bought him in my team, I wasn't that sure because I thought it was probably too early. I said on the show like pre-game week 3, I said that Sterling showed great potential against West Ham. I really, I was really interested in him, but I probably want to see a bit more. So I was planning to see the Luton's game before I jumped on. But then I'm glad that I jumped on the week early because then I got all the points, right? And then from game week 4 onward, he didn't get any points. So maybe there's a lessons learned there is like probably Lucian may do this more often than a lot of us because he would pick based on what he see before the outcomes or before the actual returns. And you got to realize that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. He could have just blanked in game week 3, for example, and then it's like, yeah, he got nothing. But sometimes, and this is more for me as well, I tend to wait. Like I want to see a bit more, and sometimes that means that you jump on too late. So the Watkins is another example. If I was able to, I would jump on him 2 weeks ago, not 2 weeks before the hat trick, not after. But obviously, I was planning for the wild card, so now it looked like I'm jumping on after. But based on what I was thinking, I would have jumped on him 2 weeks earlier. So I think if we just keep fine-tuning that process and we do it consistently, then I think more often than not we would get the more favorable outcome. And it's come back to the point that he just made earlier, like you put yourself in the position to get lucky. So you base your analysis on whatever metrics you use, and then you try to learn from these things to time the entry point and the exit point as well. So even if Sterling returned in this coming game week against Burnley, I don't have regret because like that was the time that I gave him. That was more than enough time that I gave him. If he returned after that, so be it.
Okay. So just for the sake of time, we'll skip the Arsenal City game matchup. This is mainly because in terms of sticking to just FPL, we're not buying and selling assets. We all know who the City assets are. We all know who the Arsenal assets are. It's a game that we can just skip over now because we've been talking this in more of a football sense rather than an FPL sense. So are you guys all right to skip the City Arsenal matchup just because it's one where we're not looking to bring in these players. They're not on an audition. We're not buying. We're not selling. Like, we're pretty clued up. It was just a good football talk, but because of time constraints, I want to just go to then. The only thing I do want to say as my interesting fact for this, which I couldn't believe, it's the fact that when you try and play in a similar-esque way to City, so Inter Milan, how they played in the final, I think is the best way to play against City, even though Inter Milan lost in the Champions League final. Just with the fact that Arsenal play similar to City, that's perfect for Man City, and I couldn't believe this. Do you guys know when was the last time Arsenal, not draw, because they've not drawn, when was the last time Arsenal beat Manchester City in the Premier League?
You have to go quite a way back, I think. If I'm not mistaken. Let me have a look.
December 21st, 2015.
Yeah, okay. There you go.
That's how long ago. Not a draw. Every single Premier League fixture between home and away between Arsenal and Manchester City has been won by Manchester City since December 21st, 2015. That's because if you play like City, they are the best, they will beat you. So unless Arsenal try something different, they're probably going to lose again. So, yeah. I just saw that and I just couldn't believe it. Not even a draw. We've not even had draws. And yeah, Community Shield, they won on penalties. There's been an FA Cup game here and there where it's gone the other way. But Premier League fixture, City hasn't lost them since 2015, which is mad. We're in 2023. So, Liverpool, Brighton. This is on our minds. Brighton on the back of a drubbing. Liverpool in our eyes now, for some of us, on wildcards, now coming in with the likes of Diaz and Salah coming in for a lot of people. Tien, you're our resident matchup takeaway man. What's your take then on Brighton and Liverpool?
You mean Lucian, right?
That's what I meant. Lucian, yep.
I think if Villa beat Brighton 6-2 last week, this wouldn't have been that big of a problem. It's funny, isn't it, that we actually gauge our Brighton interest based on how much Brighton score rather than how much they concede. Like, yeah. So I think every time Brighton lose without scoring, we always ask ourselves, "Oh, are Brighton finally going to collapse?" Because they keep playing younger and younger fringe players, and I think this time they just pushed it way too far, right? With the whole Gilmore Hinchelwood combination in central midfield. But I mean, Okay, so for context, Brighton Liverpool last season ended 3-3 with Trossard getting a hat trick. That was the introduction of Roberto De Zerbi. So a year on, right now it's Liverpool who are springing the bigger surprise, arguably because of the plethora of forwards that they have. And I mean, in terms of narrative, of course, the big one is how would Liverpool react to controversy, because they've had such a beating, like justice-wise last week. And you always wonder yourself, do you play the same way and hope that the referees don't screw you over? Or do you come up with something different just to get a bigger reaction so that you prove a point that they've been playing well all this while? Um, I don't think we should answer these questions from a narrative point of view because I think the answers are quite obvious. But the question is, as we've already touched on earlier, can Luis Diaz or someone else like Trent Alexander-Arnold or Szoboszlai potentially cover Salah's points? Because try as they might, Brighton have the same weaknesses. Their centre backs, somewhere the space beyond their full backs, definitely approachable. At the same time, Liverpool's weakness, no matter how they chop and change their personnel, remains the right back. Will Mitoma get all the plaudits, or will it be someone like Tyrek Lamptey? Let's begin our discussion there.
So with this one, I feel similar to this, like I did with the Spurs Liverpool game when I said I was really excited for it. There's going to be goals. I think this is the same. Brighton have the 8th worst expected goals conceded, which is slightly better, but they're the 3rd most overachieving team in that regards. So not only are they 12th in the table, they should be lower, and they've kept no clean sheets. Liverpool now. That defeat against Spurs was their first in, I think, 16 games. But we can all agree, red card, dodgy DS, offside decision. It wasn't like a normal defeat. So this is going to be in a very attacking-minded game. Stepinian is out, and Lamperty is proved adequate cover because he did well against Manchester United. But it's all about the system with Brighton, which is fine. And you're right, they've brought in sort of younger and younger players, kind of pushing the luck a little bit. But covering players very seldom works. Unless it's like one defender, like Trippier, and you have Burnham Botman, if he's fit, to cover Trippier, I get it. Because if you've got one Trippier and you've got 2 defenders and they get a clean sheet, they can make it. No one can cover Mo Salah. No one can cover Erling Haaland. A problem that you had to start this season, Lucian, is you chose the 2nd or 3rd options to try and cover the top option in the club. And you can say it's unlucky, but in every single situation you did that, it was a loss. So you went Havertz instead of Saka or this again. You always chose a 2nd or 3rd choice, and that's it. You cannot cover Mo Salah. Salah has Lamptey this week. Lamperty, who is injury prone, who hasn't played a lot in the last couple of years. Salah is world class. He had him against Udogie, which I brought out as the matchup in the Spurs Liverpool game, and Salah arguably should have came away with at least 2 assists in that game. One was ruled out unfairly, and the other one Diaz didn't convert. So for this one, that is a key one. But the big one for this, for me, you're saying about like the likes of Diaz. Darwin Núñez is the one for me in this one. Gakpo should be out for a few weeks. Jota is banned. Núñez put himself out of the Spurs game because he wasn't quite fit. Still a bit off after the last international one. But this is one where they've got no clean sheets. They've lost Estepinian. They're known for a high line, and Diaz is a fast player. Salah is a fast player, and Diaz is a fast player. But equally, it's at Brighton. Brighton are fantastic. Brighton can score goals against any team. Look, it was it 3-0 at half time against Villa? They came out and it was 3-1, right? It looked like at that point, Brighton were going to come back into the game. And they had the upper hand, right? So I just think this is a game that's going to have a lot of goals. And I spoke to TN earlier about, I was looking to bring Matoma back from game week 10. I have an issue now with some yellow flags. And I think, TN, you've convinced me, and I think it's right. I should just bring Matoma in for Hannibal now, rather than go to someone and then go to Matoma, because this is a game where equally Salah has Lamptey, but Matoma is going to have Trent, if he's fit, or Gomez, and he's not going to stop him. So I think this is a game that's got fixtures in it, and it's one where Salah, all your big ones that you're interested in, and I think Matoma as well, Matoma's ownership is still so high that it makes sense to bring him in, because I know he's got Man City next week, which isn't great, but he's 42.5% owned. Matoma could get something in this game because he's got Trent, who is just back from fitness, and he's a liability defensively. So that's what I'll say about that. Ryan, your thoughts on this matchup?
I think goals are written in this game just because of how both defenses are. I think the only thing that could probably keep Brighton at bay is probably Alisson. He's the only one who can probably save Liverpool from conceding a lot, and probably the best goalkeeper in the league right now. And if he has a worldie, then you probably see Liverpool coming away with the win with this game. Otherwise, it's a goal fest from both sides, to be honest.
And I can still see it like 3-2 Liverpool or 3-1 Liverpool.
That's most likely.
There's
probably
goals. I think there's goals.
Yeah.
And we're not looking for Brighton clean sheets in this. Most of us would only have Estepinian anyway, who's now out anyway. None of us are looking at Liverpool defenders because they're a liability. So we want this to be goals, but there are problems down both wings. Down the left side of and they've had a right-sided defensive problem all season, and with the injuries that they've got. At Brighton, they had a horrible right. So Diaz, I think for you guys, is going to be fantastic. And then Salah is fantastic against anyone, but he's got Lamptey. So they're two big weaknesses there for the only negative that I'll say about this is because they're so weak on the wings, and if Darwin, I always say this, if Darwin plays, that forces Salah further wide. And if Brighton are weak down the wings, they'll target the wings. Therefore, Salah will be pushed further out wide. So I can see assists more than goals for this. There's nothing stopping Salah making a curved run behind Lamptey, behind that high line of a Brighton defence, and in on goal. And Diaz equally could do the same down the other side. So yeah. Tien, your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, so the other thing that we haven't mentioned is that the fact that Brighton's going to travel to Marseille, right? So that's going to be a disadvantage for them compared to Liverpool. And it's early game on Saturday as well. So so that's probably something that I will have to keep an eye out for, to see how they play in that game and how they, the state of their the players after that game.
They play Sunday,
but at home. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, so they're the attacks. I think if you got any attacks on either side, I would just play them all. And yeah, as I we talked about earlier before the show, like I think just get Mitoma in so that I don't have to worry about that transfer in game week 10. There's goals in this, so might as well just get him straight in. Yeah, just on the point of like trying to cover Salah. Yeah, we all know that that's not possible. But it's not about trying to cover Salah in matching his points. It's more about like can Luis Diaz get something, or Darwin Núñez? For some people would go for Darwin Núñez, right? Would they get something? And I think they could well get something, because that attacks, if they get some goals, you would think that all three will be involved, or at least two of them will be involved. And the fact that by trying to pick a cheaper option is the fact that you'll bank on your investment of using that funds to get more points from elsewhere, compared to the 4.5 or 5.0 midfielders or forward or defenders, 3.9 defender that you have to sacrifice to accommodate Salah. So yes, it's not as simple as cover. It's about what else can you do with that money. So yeah, but I think I'll buy Mitoma. I will not have Salah, and I will hopefully that Diaz can do something for me.
Okay. So last matchup here: Newcastle against, or well, West Ham against Newcastle. Lucian.
Well, I think it's safe to say that both teams are basically brand new, even though they are exercising some of the same players. West Ham, ever since they've started using Jared Bowen a lot more narrowly, seems to have come to life. Like they've basically dropped all their wingers and favored their central midfielders such as JWP and Lucas Paqueta operating from the half spaces, and West Ham are literally a brand new team. This is why their fullbacks are pushed much more forward, and they've been able to secure really good looking attacks, and that's shown particularly against Sheffield United. Yeah. So with Newcastle, we are seeing the same thing. They are not starting with their swashbuckling midfield of Joelinton and Sandro Tonali that beat Villa 5-1. Now they can smash teams 8-0 instead, by fielding Elliot Anderson and Sean Longstaff. Wow. That is, I mean, well, I think they thrashed PSG with pretty similar players too. So really, credit is where credit is due. And so the question is, which combination works better? The thing about West Ham and Newcastle in the first 4 game weeks was that only 2 to 3 players shone, even though they had a system was fully working, namely Newcastle's left flank and West Ham's long ball game. But that has all changed. So the question is, right now, when these two teams with brand new strategies and a sort of a brand new identity, when they face off against each other, Newcastle's intensity, their counter press, and their relentless amount of wingers that they have will play into West Ham's counter-attacking game. So it's hand to glove. The question is, given that West Ham have already beaten Chelsea and Brighton, who are possession heavy, how will Newcastle cope? Or at least, will they be taking their approach and just rev it up 10,000 times? Or will they take a leaf out of Liverpool's book by having their wingers operate extremely narrow, where Salah played as potentially the number 9? And can the likes of Gordon, oh sorry, not Gordon, can the likes of Almiron do the same? So we start there.
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting matchup because we had our audition for Newcastle against Brentford when the fixture started to turn, and I think most of us are like at least double Newcastle, even if it's like one defender and a midfielder or a striker. I think a lot of us are triple up Newcastle, to be honest, because double defense and either a midfielder or forward is a smart move with the fixtures that they've got. Great result against PSG. I really like the idea that you say like the way that they'll go down the wings and they'll keep pressing is perfect for West Ham because they sit back and counter. Equally, from Newcastle's point of view, they are the opposite for West Ham, who are excellent on set pieces, especially with the master that is James Ward-Prowse. However, Newcastle are the Premier League's best defenders of set plays and set pieces. So it's a really interesting audition here for West Ham because these are the players where JWP, Bowen, Areola, even the likes of Soufal, who was in for one of my defenders in one of my late drafts, or Zuma. This is a really good test for them. They've both played in Europe this week, or West Ham's about to play, and Newcastle have played. So they've got a bit of legs, tired-ish legs under them. Both are firmly in our view in terms of FPL assets. So if you're on double Newcastle, this might tip you to triple, because the Paraguayan Messi, who I had from Gameweek 1 last year in Almiron, is massive. Like I said to Tien, he was going to be my move in, but it just seems silly that he'll be in my move now and then 2 weeks later he's going to Matoma. I think he is the perfect example of a hot player. When he's on it, he's on it. He scored 3 goals in 3 games, 2 Premier League and then 1 against PSG. When he's on it, he will keep going, just like Son. When he's off it, he blanks for 2 games, sell him or bench him, because he's hot and cold. Right now he's hot, and I will not be surprised if he goes again and gets another goal or an assist minute, because that's the kind of player that he is. And he's going down the left side, right, of West Ham, which I think is the weaker side. Soufal, I think he's just solid as a right back who gets forward and crosses a lot, by the way. He crosses a lot. That's why they're very good at their counter-attack, and that's why they're very good aerially and with crosses and with set plays. But that's Newcastle's strength. So I just think it's a fantastic audition for West Ham, because this'll, if you're not wildcarding this week, if you're wildcarding after, like Ryan, this'll let you know, so this was a really good game against Newcastle, and it will really think, should I just go Areola? Should I skip him because he's not going to get clean sheets? Is JWP able to get something from a team like Newcastle, who are so good at defensive set plays? Because if you can get set piece goals against Newcastle, you can get them against anyone in the Premier League. Is Bowen going to continue that form? Because if Bowen can get something against this great Newcastle defense and this team, he could probably get it against most other teams. So is he going to... he's in your team, right, Tien? Bowen is in your team, right? Yep. So I just find that this is a really great matchup of West Ham sit back and counter. They give away possession. Newcastle aren't used to a lot of possession. So what are they going to do in this situation? This will give us an insight into the games against the lower clubs where they are the dominant team, not the one that's pressing and fighting. So PSG was a fantastic 4-1 result. It was done on the fact, even if you look at like the Shaw goal, who won the ball back, got it and scored. The Longstaff goal, when they did quick passing, and it was Mbappe's lazy tracking, one of the worst tracking displays I've ever seen. He's so good in attack. Defensively, Mbappe... most teams play systems now, right? You've got Liverpool and City who have that defender that goes into the midfield. You've got De Zerbi's Brighton, who are so system based that you can take out a Stupinian, put in Lamptey, and you get the same result, right? Mbappe wouldn't. It feels like the Galacticos eras of having a bunch of superstars. United were still doing that. They were still paying so much money to likes of Ronaldo and Pogba, and it's still a cancer that affects the club. Mbappe is that kind of player that will not fit into any other team. He needs to be in a team of superstars. He would not survive in a team like Brighton because he won't do his job. Anyway, side note of that done. The idea about that, though, is that the play that they have, this will be a great audition for West Ham. I think it'll be really close. And it'll also give us more of an insight into Newcastle on how do they cope with having more possession. But I'm very interested to see how their legs are going to handle, because a big problem with Newcastle is, can they keep those top 4 aspirations going whilst being in such a tough Champions League group? They've had a fantastic 4-1 win against PSG. They had to work very hard for that. And they have a thin squad. Lascelles had a blinder, right? He had a great game against PSG. Shaw had a great... Burn and Shaw scored, right? Like, it's a fantastic team performance, but that's it. If they lose any more players, or if the players can't hack it, like Lascelles hasn't played a lot of football, can he play 2-3 games a week? It's going to be an interesting test. I think this is going to help people to know, can we go triple Newcastle? Can they survive the grueling Champions League schedule with the Premier League and all the other cup games? And can West Ham do something against a team in great form who their biggest strengths is Newcastle's biggest strengths. How are they going to react to that? So I think it's a good audition for West Ham, but it's a really, really good matchup between, like, what do you say, hand and glove, like Lucy, in that kind of situation, right? So, Tien, what's your thoughts on the matchup?
Yeah, so being on the wild card now, I feel like I need to make a decision. As much as I would like to wait for to see Bowen, but as I mentioned earlier about when do you decide to jump on, and how long do you have to wait? I feel like I've seen enough. Bowen is ahead of Gemwood Prowse, and yeah, I don't think that the sort of the saving is worth it to go in Ward-Prowse instead of Bowen. The 90-minute man, the talisman playing up front a lot of the time. And if Ward-Prowse is going to put those crosses in, well, chances are that they'll come to Bowen. So yeah, I'm just going to go for him. Once again, saving myself a book transfers in 2 weeks' time. Newcastle is definitely not going to be an easy fixture for him. But just so be it. Because to me, the transfers, like I'd always see the cost of free transfers is at least 4 points, even though they're free transfer. But to me, every transfer is worth 4 points. So every transfer that I have to make, and especially the pre-planned transfer, the book transfers, I just want to see whether that is worth waiting for. And I think for Newcastle defenders, once again, there's a lot of people that are thinking, oh, can we go without Trippier and get cover? Once again, we talk about cover, using like Burn or Lascelles or whoever, whatever, even doubling up. I'm not sure if it's worth it, because the best fixtures for clean sheets, you may argue that they've gone. So if you double up or even trip on Newcastle now, I think once again you may be booking transfers because you may want to get off them pretty quickly as well. So if you can choose the best one, just choose the best one, and that's it.
Okay, Ryan, your thoughts on the matchup?
I think, like you mentioned, it's a good game for me to watch and gather information because both teams are in really good spots right now. That it should be a really interesting game. And there could be players that appear that are probably not template right now, but come game week 10 could be at the discussion point. Like Almiron, streaky player. When he's on, that purple patch is when you want him. So it could be, we could kind of wait and see, maybe is he going to be continuing this streak or not. So that's some information. Again, I think Bowen probably someone I would want going in game week 10 as well. But yeah, I'm just looking at it from an information point of view. I don't know if there'll be goals per se in this game. It could be a very tight one. But from an information collection point of view, it could be a really good game.
Okay. So we'll shoot through our 4 game week player picks. And Lucian, you are up first. Who are you looking at for the next 4 game weeks?
Matty Cash. Well, I mean, he was second name on the team sheet after Trippier at the back. Fixtures are there, and I mean, I'm just more impressed that Villa have this thing, right, where they try and what's the word? They try and pick pen their opponents into this box. Because I mean, yes, Villa are good in transition, and that's how they beat the likes of Chelsea. But what if you give Villa majority of possession, right? You ask the same question about Newcastle. And their answer is actually to use their wing backs. I mean, Lucas Dean is a pretty good crosser of the ball, but Matty Cash, he's the guy that actually gets beyond defenses or at least around defenses. And his first time crosses are actually pretty good. So, it's just about, yeah, we'll wait and see. I mean, sorry, buy him and then you wait for the points. And if you get it, you get it. But if you don't, there's just no alternative in terms of attacking the right flank right now with Bailey unavailable. So I'm pretty confident in at least in the near future that he'll get something.
Yeah, he's in both of your drafts, and he's already in my team. He's way
And
up
it's my team as well.
there. Is in yours because he has to
Yeah.
be. It's why I changed my mind and brought Trippier in as well. Trippier and Trippier and Cash are way up at the top in terms of involvement. Cash plays right mid to right wing at times with the way that Emery's setting it up, and he's in the box more than like any other defender. He's an easy pick. I don't want to say essential because maybe not quite, but they're about to start Wolves, West Ham, Luton, Forest, and Fulham, and he's like right mid. And he apart from Chilwell, he actually does take those assists and chances. I think a key difference. Great pick. Popular guy because he's in both of your drafts. As we go on to Tien's pick.
Yeah, so I've talked about him quite a lot today. I have to go with Luis Diaz. So once again, we look at Liverpool. They are about to start a very good run of fixtures. We've already talked that the Brighton game could be goals. So whether it fall onto Salah or Diaz or Nunes, my bet is that it fall onto all three of them. Especially now with Gakpo is out and Jota being suspended as well. So Diaz should start this game week. Probably not all 4 games, but yeah, probably at least 3 out of 4. He hasn't scored or assists in the last 5 games, but he should have. The VAR blunder, and I often back my analysis of underlying stats and what I see as well. So the underachievers are generally those that I'm more interested in than the one that have just scored in the last game week or something. So Diaz has been underachieved in terms of his underlying stats. So playing for strong attacking teams with very favourable fixtures. What more do you want?
That's a great pick. And he's one of the. I actually at the start of the season didn't have him as the more nailed on forward. Like Salah was always going to be him. It's always sort of between Gakpo and Darwin, and then it was always like Jota and Diaz. And I was surprised how much he's playing, and he'll definitely play with Jota banned. And then after that, like still doing so well, why not? Let's go on to the forward pick of Ryan.
Okay. Lucian already mentioned pick my second pick and not my first pick. But in the interest of not wanting to break either my first pick or my second pick, which was Watkins and then Darwin, I've decided to go with Solanke. Now, the next 3 fixtures out of the 4 are good. And obviously in the last 4 games, they've played really tough teams for Bournemouth. But even then, out of forwards, he was 6th for XG non-pen and 2nd for touches in the penalty area. I think Watkins was like 34 touches and Solanke was like 31. So pretty good stats. And yeah, I'm hoping that fixtures breed form and hoping that he'll be, as a talisman, get some points. So yeah, let's see.
Yeah, if we take the City game out, which is obviously the difficult one, Burnley at home, Wolves at home. So this Everton away, Wolves at home, Burnley at home. The 6.4 million. And he's one of them that you could bench, right? If say you've got Neto, like Lucian has, he is.
Oh, that Neto. Sorry, wrong Neto.
Not the goal. Well, the goalkeeper as well, not too bad, but he, in terms of like if you ever that kind of manager that rotates and you find a good cheaper midfielder that you can swap, benching for City away if whoever Wolves have got in game week 11, Wolves have Sheffield United away. So that's a situation where, you bench Solanke away to City and you play Neto away to Wolves, right? So 6.4 million, it's I'm the wildcard pick and I've gone for Diaz. No, I've not. I've gone for Darwin Nunes. We've said so many Diaz. We've had Ruben Diaz. We've had Luis Diaz. No, Darwin Nunes. The only negative here is the international break coming back. But yeah, similar to what we said about Diaz, we think there's goals in the Brighton game. Gakpo could be out for like 3-ish weeks, maybe even more. He only didn't play against Spurs because he pulled himself out. Because he's not 100% fit. But Brighton, haven't kept a clean sheet all season, and it's Liverpool who usually score 3 goals a game. And then it's Everton, Forest, and Luton. So if any of you guys want to pick Darwin Núñez next week, you'd have Everton, Forest, Luton, and Brentford. So, yeah, look, I feel the same about Darwin Núñez. Same I feel about Callum Wilson, but just a little bit less so. If this guy has minutes, this guy is king. Like, he's incredible. And is he 7.4 million now? Because I think he had a price drop earlier in the season. He's 7.4 million. He's going to play striker for Liverpool who score lots of goals. It's as simple as that. I think it's fantastic. So captaincy. This is why it's game changers. I think the game is changing. For me, it's Son. It's on Son, and it's not going to move unless there's an injury or unless, I don't know, Arsenal's whole defense get injured. So I'll go Haaland, right? The only thing that puts me off Son is the fact that he's not 100% and he keeps coming off. Now, I don't know where I saw the information, but Luton, I think it was FPL Lens. I think it was a post from Gabriel in his matchup where he said something like Luton concede so many goals after like the 80th minute or 85th minute, and Son will be off at that time, right? So Maddison is in my thinking. I just think if Son's still down the middle, I go with the striker, but it's not Haaland. Unless something big changes, like if Son's out injured, I'll probably go to Haaland, because that's the key double up for me, Maddison and Son, right? But yeah, that's where the armband is for me. Ryan, I think you're the same.
Yes, Son, but I don't have him in my team, and I will only bring him in if I get leaks with regards to him starting, which is potential because it's the first game of the kickoff. I'm not worried about the minutes because him down the middle against Luton should be fine enough. Even 60, 75 minutes hopefully should be fine. And if he's not starting, then it's either Haaland or Salah. I'm not too convinced by Maddison's explosive potential at the moment.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like if Son and Maddison plays, both of them are fine. But I think when Son doesn't play, I think that takes it away a little bit from Maddison for me.
Yeah.
Tien, yours is not here, but it's going to be Haaland, right? Because you don't have.
No, it's Son.
Oh, it's Son.
So it's currently on Son. So and that's the reason why I don't feel like I need Salah, because that's exactly why we're talking about it right now. If we talked about the Brighton game that there's gonna be goals, you think that Salah's gonna be involved. Spent 12.5 million to buy him. Haaland's playing away at Arsenal, and he's still saying like, oh, maybe Salah, maybe not. It's like, well, then why have him in the first place? And that's going to be every week, because next week he play Everton, but then Haaland's playing Brighton at home.
I'll still back.
You know what I mean? Like, well, yeah, but that's the thing. Like, you still have to think about it. Whereas if I had Salah, I wouldn't have to think about it. I'll just go like, yes, Salah for those easy games. So, but because. And it does come down to, like, if we hear press conference news about how Son is looking, because I think there was rumors that he wasn't in training for at least earlier in the week. And yeah, if there's potential leaks as well, that is the only thing that would keep me off Son. Because even though I agree with Ryan, even if he gets up off early, there's enough time to do damage. And if there is any news that Son is, potentially a doubt or something, then I'll find my way to switch to Salah. In which case, I'll give it to Salah.
There's 2 minutes
and
ago,
not having Son.
2 minutes ago, Spurs have just posted a picture of a love heart with Son training. Literally awesome. 2 minutes ago, and also
still wait for the links.
And also, Lucian, just to let you know that Arsenal contacted Wolves about Neto for January.
They do that. They did that mid-year. I mean, what else is new?
Sorry, Wolves. So let's go to the coin flip. So Who are the sides? Who are the two that you're considering? Because Lucian is flipping a coin right now. He's so close. Who are the two then in your mind?
Well, this side says Pokemon Asia, so it's
Sun.
going to be
Son.
yes, the Asian representative, and so the other side, this side is going to be medicine for sure.
So you're
One or
definitely
the
going.
other.
You're definitely going Spur. I mean, obviously, if Sun, what if Sun doesn't play? Because Ryan's right. It's the first game. We should get a leak. If Sun doesn't play, will you still go to Madison, or is it like
The
me?
vice captain will be on the other guy.
So you will if Sun is out, Madison is the captain.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So a coin flip.
I'm gonna flip this, and I'm gonna put this like mid-range away from the camera so you guys can guess what the result is.
I
Okay.
see it from
Go
your
ahead.
face.
He doesn't even see it. Oh, that's
Okay.
Heung-min Son.
Okay. I'm not looking at
Yeah.
it yet.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at it yet. Okay.
Oh no! Wait, yeah, I think that was Heung-min Son, but
That's it.
yeah.
Who was it?
I can't even see it.
I didn't see.
You saw
Do
it
I
just
need to?
now.
Do I have to announce it for the sake of my students?
Yeah, might as well.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
Pokemon
that was
Asia.
Heung-min
That's
Son.
Sun, right?
Sun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Sun. Yes.
Sun
There we
all
go.
around. But I think just the interesting
All right.
difference is, like I've already said, if Sun's out, I probably won't go Madison. I'll probably go. I probably
Salah,
would go
I think.
Nah.
Gotta be Salah. Come on.
Salah, Brighton. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Flip a coin. Flip a coin.
I'm so glad I don't have to stress out over this anymore. I do not have to stress out over this anymore. Thanks.
I
That's it,
love
right.
I love Madison. He's incredible, but if he's got no one up front to put the ball in the back of the net, which is a problem he had earlier in the season, what's the point in having him as vice? So yeah, I've got Salah. Salah's my vice. So
Yep.
that would be my choice. Actually, Haaland's my vice. So let me just change that before I make a mistake. Yeah. You know, Haaland could just go and score a goal because that's what Haaland does. But his ceiling should be lower this week. If Haaland goes to Arsenal and bags a hat trick, that just sucks because that is if he does that, that's it for you captain every week. It's over.
Yeah.
It's over.
I won't put it past. It's possible.
It's such a shame you can only play Wolves twice a season.
Yeah. Wolves at home. None of us will captain Haaland in that game, right? None of us at all. We'll avoid that one. But yeah. So that's it. Hopefully everyone enjoyed it this week. Next week we'll try and tighten the time. We had a lot of reviews to do because we had to catch up because of time, but we'll keep tweaking it. We'll keep making it, and I'm going to save this and put it on Spotify as well. So thanks for joining us all, guys. Hope you all enjoyed it. Follow us all on Twitter. Our handles are just below all of our names. So we'll catch you all next time. Take care. Bye-bye.